Under the flickering glow of streetlights on the outskirts of the city, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a hitman, his cold, expressionless face barely visible in the darkness. He approached a man standing alone on the sidewalk, his voice low and menacing. "Do you know where the little girl is?" The man, panic-stricken, shook his head frantically. "I swear, I don't know. I don't know anything." Before he could finish, the hitman's blade flashed through the air, severing the man's arm in one swift motion. The hitman was Mark, a man who had once been a respected lawyer, known for his eloquent speeches in court, admired by his peers. Now, he was a shadow of his former self. It all started with a case that changed everything. One night, Mark was working late in his office, while his wife and young daughter were at home. The quiet of the night was broken by the sudden ring of the doorbell. Mark's wife, peeking through the peephole, saw it was Jerry, a familiar face, and opened the door without hesitation. But she never expected the horror that awaited. Behind Jerry, armed men stormed in. Jerry, barely alive, had 3 fingers missing and his eyes were filled with terror. Before anyone could react, the intruders killed Mark's wife and Jerry in cold blood. Mark's daughter, lost in the chaos, vanished without a trace. It wasn't until the police arrived at his office, grim-faced, that Mark learned of the nightmare that had unfolded at home. When he stumbled back to the wreckage of his house, the floor was soaked with dried blood, furniture was torn apart, and everything lay in ruins. In the corner of the room, he found a drawing his daughter had made. The simple lines of the drawing, once a source of joy, now cut through him like a knife. Overcome with grief, he collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Just then, a hand covered his mouth and nose. Mark fought back, but a voice whispered in his ear, "Don't scream, I'm John, Jerry's friend." Mark relaxed slightly as John handed him a set of keys. "These were left for you by Jerry before he died." Confused and desperate for answers, Mark listened as John slowly revealed the truth. Jerry had been an undercover cop, investigating a dangerous organ trafficking ring. A few days before the murder, Jerry had met Bill, the leader of the gang. Through John's recommendation, Mark had unknowingly met Jerry at a restaurant, which exposed Jerry's identity. Days later, the mafia killed Jerry and Mark's wife. John also revealed that the gang had been kidnapping children, and Mark's daughter was likely among them. Fueled by rage, Mark swore to take revenge. With the keys in hand, he opened the door to a warehouse, a stench of rot filling the air. Inside, he found a table covered in files on missing children. His heart sank as he dug through the papers. Nearby, he found a bag. Opening it, he discovered $5 million in cash. The money caused a fracture in the game. The higher-ups, furious over the missing cash, lashed out at Bill. Furious himself, Bill went on a violent rampage, speeding through the streets with his men. Mark, seeing this, deliberately blocked their path with his car. When the students passed by, Mark shouted at them to get away. One of Bill's men drew a gun, but Mark acted fast, shooting him dead. From the man's phone, he got Bill's address. The next day, Mark stormed into Bill's hideout, demanding to know where his daughter was. Bill, anticipating the move, ambushed Mark. Mark was knocked out cold. When he came to, he was tied up, staring into the smug face of Bill. "Tell me where the money is, and I'll tell you where your daughter is." Desperate, Mark relented and revealed the money's location. While Bill sent his men to fetch the cash, Mark was left under guard. But just as Bill's men discovered the money, they realized something was wrong. Back wouldn't budge. Upon closer inspection, they found it was rigged with a hand grenade. Bill rushed back to the hideout, only to find his men dead. In his rage, Bill drove home, only to find his son's ashes had been stolen. Mark had taken them and scattered them as an act of vengeance. Enraged, Bill gave chase. They ended up at an abandoned warehouse, where Mark appeared out of nowhere, gun in hand, aiming directly at Bill. As the two men argued, the police arrived. Mark fired, disarming Bill in an instant. The police intervened, urging Mark to lower his weapon. "Bill can't die. He's done more than hurt your family. He's hurt countless innocent children. He needs to face justice." Torn, Mark finally lowered his gun. He turned to Bill, his voice trembling. "Where's my daughter?" Bill sneered, and then threatened the cop, saying he would sell the officer's son. The cop, fed up, turned his back on Bill and walked out of the warehouse, leaving Bill to face his fate. Bill collapsed to the ground, broken, as he awaited the unknown. In the end, the police dismantled the criminal syndicate, but Mark didn't find his daughter. However, he had avenged his wife and child in his own brutal way. Through this harrowing journey of revenge, Mark went from a lawyer to a man consumed by darkness. But in the end, justice was served, even if it wasn't quite the justice he had hoped for.